The arrogant arrival. The universe had always been watching Earth, though humanity never knew it. For millennia, advanced civilizations cataloged the blue planet as a curiosity, a primitive world barely worth a footnote in their vast databases. That changed on a Tuesday morning, when two of the galaxy's most powerful forces decided Earth was ripe for the taking. The Zephon Empire arrived first, their crystalline vessels materializing above major cities like frozen tears against the sky. Each ship pulsed with bioluminescent energy, beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. They had conquered 1,000 worlds, each one falling within days of their arrival. Earth, they calculated, would take mere hours. 20 minutes later, the windy Krillian hegemony's warfleet emerged from hyperspace, their ships resembling massive beetles carved from obsidian and chrome. They had come for the same prize, drawn by Earth's unique electromagnetic signature that their scientists claimed could fuel their expansion for centuries. Neither empire expected to find the other there. Neither expected what would come next. Ambassador Vextor of the Zephon Empire broadcast their message across every human communication channel simultaneously. The translation was perfect, cold, and utterly dismissive. Inhabitants of Earth, you have been claimed by the Zephon Empire. Your primitive technology and fractured nations pose no threat to our superiority. Surrender is not required, as resistance is impossible. You will simply comply. The Krillian response came moments later, drowning out human news broadcasts with their own declaration. Supreme Commander Thrax's voice resonated like grinding metal. The mammals of Earth are now subjects of the Krillian hegemony. The Zephon have no claim here. Any interference will be met with annihilation. World leaders scrambled for responses. Militaries went to highest alert, and billions of people watched the skies in terror. But while politicians debated and generals strategized, something else was happening in the shadows. Humanity's true nature was about to reveal itself. Dr. Sarah Chen was working late in her underground research facility in Singapore when the first Zephon extraction beam hit. The aliens had identified her lab as containing valuable genetic research and decided to simply take it, along with everyone inside. 43 researchers were pulled into the sky, screaming. Sarah survived only because she had been in the reinforced sub-basement investigating an anomaly in their quantum encryption system. She watched her colleagues disappear through security monitors, heard their final moments over the intercom. Something inside her broke, or perhaps something that had always been there finally woke up. Within hours, she had contacted 17 other research facilities through encrypted channels that the aliens hadn't even noticed. They thought human networking was limited to the obvious internet infrastructure they could see. They had no idea about the dark networks, the hidden satellites, the analog backup systems that paranoid humans had built during the Cold War and never dismantled. Marcus Rodriguez, a former Marine turned mechanic in Detroit, witnessed Krillian drones harvesting people from his neighborhood like crops. They moved systematically, selecting humans based on some criteria he couldn't understand. Young, old, healthy, sick, it didn't matter. They took his daughter. She was 6 years old, wearing her favorite dinosaur pajamas when the beam took her. Marcus didn't scream. He didn't cry. He went to his garage and began building. Every piece of military hardware he'd kept illegally, every improvised explosive technique he'd learned in 3 tours overseas, every ounce of rage he'd suppressed for years, all of it had a purpose now. Within 3 days, he had turned his pickup truck into something that shouldn't have existed. A mobile electromagnetic pulse generator powered by a fusion cell he'd stolen from a Zephon scout that had landed too close to his shop. The resistance didn't have a name at first. It grew organically, spreading through encrypted messages, dead drops, and old-fashioned word of mouth. A network of scientists, soldiers, hackers, engineers, farmers, teachers, and criminals, united by one simple truth. The aliens thought humans were weak because they saw our divisions, our conflicts, our messy democracy and struggling nations. They didn't understand that humans had been fighting each other for so long. We had become exceptionally good at war. Now, for the first time in history, Humanity had a common enemy. The first coordinated strike happened simultaneously across 6 continents. The aliens had established processing centers, places where they sorted humans for various purposes. Some for labor, some for study, some for reasons that made even hardened soldiers vomit when they discovered them. These centers were protected by energy shields that human weapons couldn't penetrate. But Jennifer Okonkwo, a Nigerian physicist who had been studying metamaterials, discovered something interesting. The shields operated on a frequency that resonated with a specific combination of sound waves and electromagnetic pulses. It was like finding the exact note that could shatter crystal. At exactly 3:14 a.m. GMT, homemade devices activated outside processing centers in Lagos, Moscow, Sydney, São Paulo, New York, and Mumbai. The shields flickered and died. In that moment of vulnerability, thousands of humans struck. Not with advanced weapons, but with Molotov cocktails filled with thermite, improvised rail guns made from industrial equipment, and chemical weapons that violated every Geneva Convention ever written. Humans didn't care about rules anymore. Rules were for fighting other humans. This was survival. The Zefon commander at the Moscow facility sent a final transmission before the building collapsed. The primitives have teeth, requesting immediate. The message cut off as 40,000 pounds of homemade explosives, planted in the old Soviet bunkers beneath the city, detonated. The crater was visible from space. Both alien empires responded with fury. They began orbital bombardments of major cities, but humans had already gone underground. Centuries of paranoia had gifted humanity with bunkers, tunnels, and cave systems that honeycombed the planet. The aliens found themselves fighting an enemy that disappeared like smoke, only to reappear behind their lines with devastating effect. The Shadow Protocol, as the Resistance finally named itself, evolved rapidly. They learned to hack Krillian drones using quantum computers and guitar amplifiers. They discovered that Zefon biological systems were fatally allergic to a combination of caffeine and capsaicin, leading to coffee shops becoming weapon manufacturing sites. Every human victory was shared globally within hours. Every alien weakness exploited within days. Captain Alexandra Petrov, formerly of the Russian Space Forces, led the mission that changed everything. She and her team had spent 2 weeks modifying a captured Zefon shuttle, replacing its AI with something far more primitive, but infinitely more vengeful. They packed it with nuclear warheads, all of Earth's remaining stockpile that hadn't been used yet, and programmed it with a simple directive: find the biggest alien ship and give it a hug. The shuttle launched from a hidden facility in Siberia, its signature masked by the radiation from recent bombardments. It flew straight toward the Zefon command carrier, a ship the size of Manhattan that had seemed invincible. The aliens detected it too late. Their sophisticated systems couldn't understand why one of their own shuttles would be on a collision course. Their AI kept trying to establish communication, to correct what it assumed was a navigation error. The explosion was visible from Mars. The command carrier didn't just break apart, it ceased to exist, transformed into a rapidly expanding cloud of superheated particles. In that moment, both alien empires realized a terrible truth. Humans might be primitive, but they were also insane by galactic standards. They would destroy themselves to destroy their enemies. They would turn their entire planet into a weapon if necessary. When darkness answered, the destruction of the Zefon command carrier marked a turning point, but not in the way the aliens expected. Both empires doubled their forces, calling in reserves from across their territories. They would crush these primitives through sheer overwhelming force. What they didn't understand was that they had already lost. They just didn't know it yet. Dr. Sarah Chen had spent the weeks since the first attack developing something unprecedented. Working with a network of scientists across the globe, she had decoded the quantum entanglement communication system both alien species used. More importantly, she had found a way to poison it. Not with false information or jamming signals, but with something far more insidious. A virus made of pure mathematics that infected their AI systems and drove them slowly insane. The virus spread silently through both fleets, hiding in routine communications, duplicating itself in navigation calculations. It didn't destroy systems immediately. Instead, it made tiny alterations, changed decimal points, reversed polarities, created feedback loops that grew stronger over time. The aliens' own sophistication worked against them. Their systems were so complex, so interconnected, that they couldn't isolate the infection once it started. Marcus Rodriguez had become something of a legend in the Resistance. His mobile EMP generators had been replicated thousands of times, turning every vehicle on Earth into a potential weapon. But his masterpiece was yet to come. Working with a team of engineers from around the world, he had developed Project Nightfall, a network of satellites that humanity had secretly launched using stolen alien technology. These weren't ordinary satellites. Each one contained a modified nuclear device surrounded by a shell of exotic matter harvested from destroyed alien ships. When detonated, they wouldn't just explode. They would create temporary black holes, microscopic singularities that would last only seconds but would devour anything within their event horizon. It was insane, suicidal, and exactly the kind of weapon only desperate humans would create. The Battle of Luna Station became the stuff of legends. The Krillian hegemony had established a forward base on the moon, using it to coordinate their ground forces on Earth. A team of 200 volunteers, knowing it was a one-way mission, launched from Earth in stolen Zephon fighters. Their leader, Colonel James Washington, had lost his entire family in the first wave of attacks. He had nothing left but rage and a determination to make the aliens pay. The assault on Luna Station was brutal. Humans fought in ways that violated every concept of warfare the aliens understood. They used their own bodies as weapons, ramming fighters into critical systems. They vented atmosphere to create impromptu missiles of frozen oxygen. They overloaded fusion reactors and rode them down like bombs. One soldier, Private Lisa Park, manually flew a damaged fighter into the station's main power core while broadcasting Earth's music at maximum volume. The last thing the Krillian defenders heard was Beethoven's Ninth Symphony before everything went white. The psychological warfare campaign was perhaps humanity's greatest achievement. Led by a coalition of artists, musicians, writers, and filmmakers, they created content specifically designed to disturb alien minds. They broadcast human history, our wars, our genocides, our ability to survive apocalypses and keep fighting. They showed aliens what humans did to each other and asked a simple question. If we do this to our own species, what do you think we'll do to you? They transmitted recordings from concentration camps, footage from nuclear bomb tests, the history of the Black Death, the Mongol conquests, the World Wars. They showed how humans had turned suffering into art, pain into power, death into defiance. The message was clear. You think you're conquering a primitive species. You're trying to enslave a race that has been baptized in its own blood for millennia and emerged stronger every time. The breakdown began slowly. Zephon and Krillian forces started making mistakes. Ships collided during routine maneuvers. Weapons fired at the wrong targets. The two empires, already tense from competing for Earth, began to suspect sabotage from each other. When a Krillian destroyer accidentally fired on a Zephon medical vessel, it sparked a conflict that humans gleefully exploited. Jennifer Okonkwo had discovered something extraordinary. The energy signatures of both alien species' technology could be turned against each other. By modulating captured Zephon weapons to match Krillian frequencies and vice versa, humans could make it appear that the two empires were attacking each other. Every incident escalated tensions. Every accident looked like aggression. The final phase of Project Nightfall launched on a night when both alien fleets were engaged in a tense standoff over Europe. They had begun fighting each other more than humans, each convinced the other was trying to claim sole possession of Earth. Neither noticed the hundreds of small satellites moving into position until it was too late. Captain Petrov, who had survived the command carrier attack by ejecting at the last second and somehow making it to a hidden bunker, gave the order. For every child taken, for every life lost, for Earth, 73 miniature black holes bloomed in space simultaneously. They lasted only 4.7 seconds each, but in that time, they consumed 40% of both alien fleets. Ships were torn apart by tidal forces, stretched into streams of atoms and pulled into oblivion. The gravitational waves shattered every piece of glass on Earth's surface, but humans had been warned. They were underground, waiting. The surviving aliens faced a choice: continue fighting an insane species that would rather destroy their own planet than surrender or retreat. The decision was made easier when Dr. Chen's virus finally reached critical mass. AI systems across both fleets began showing their crew members hallucinations, false sensor readings, imaginary attacks. Zephon ships fired on empty space. Krillian navigators flew into asteroids that didn't exist. The retreat was chaos. Both empires fled Earth's system, firing at shadows, fighting ghosts, and occasionally each other. They left behind thousands of destroyed ships, abandoned equipment, and a message that would spread across the galaxy. Earth was not worth the cost. Humans were not primitive. They were something far worse. They were creative, vengeful, and willing to die for the chance to kill you. In the aftermath, as humanity emerged from their bunkers and began to rebuild, they found themselves in possession of alien technology far beyond their understanding. But more importantly, they had something else. They had unity. For the first time in human history, there were no nations, no races, no religions that mattered more than the single truth. We were human. We had survived. And the galaxy now knew our name. The last transmission from the fleeing alien fleets was intercepted and decoded. It was a warning, broadcast to every civilization in known space. Avoid the third planet of System Sol. The inhabitants call themselves humans. They are primitive in technology but advanced in warfare. They do not conquer. They do not enslave. They survive, and they will make you scream in the darkness before they let you die. Sarah Chen stood in the ruins of her laboratory, looking up at the stars that now held new meaning. Marcus Rodriguez taught his neighbors how to convert alien tech into farming equipment. Jennifer Okonkwo began designing defenses for the next time someone decided humans were weak. Captain Petrov started training the next generation of defenders. Colonel Washington's name was carved into a monument alongside millions of others who had died to prove a simple point. Humanity was not weak. We were just getting started. And the darkness had heard the screams of those who had tried to prove otherwise. The galaxy would remember. Earth would make sure of it.